Sponsored by Sinclair Heating and Cooling for 24/7 comfort on call.
All right, Brad here with 3 brilliant minutes, and we're talking why it's always good to keep learning, which you're a prime example. You're a role model, Brad.
Jeff, it was just earlier this week, Chris actually had an interview with a very lovely lady from UWGB. She was here talking about adult continuing education, and I thought of that instantly when I saw this story last night. Study finds people taking adult education classes run a lower risk of dementia.
Makes sense.
Yep, it was a study out of Japan. So they actually started out with 500,000 participants, roughly, okay? But first of all, they looked at their medical profiles to kind of weed out what individuals may already be predisposed to dementia because of other health issues or whatever, okay? Sure. So they got about 250,000 participants that seemed to be very healthy. They were between the ages of 40 and 69 years old, and they were left to decide on their own. Do you want to take classes or don't you? Just document what you've done, but you need to take these classes between 2006 and 2010. And then they followed all of these individuals, both the ones that were in classes and those that were not, for an additional 7 years, which would take you through 2018. Okay. So what did they find? Participants of adult education had a 19% lower risk of developing dementia than participants who did not take any classes. So it really, you're right, it keeps you sharp.
If you use it.
Yeah, and if you don't, you lose it.
Right.
So here's something else when you look deeper, because they put them through a whole bunch of tests, okay? Participants who took part in adult education classes kept up with their ability to think abstractly, reason quickly, and problem solve independent of any previously acquired knowledge than their peers who did not. One thing that there was no improvement on, however, the reaction times did not improve, but no big deal there. But obviously, their brains were pretty sharp, okay? So just something to think about there. Next topic, cheese, for it or against it?
It looks like the moon's surface.
It looks like a cheese sandwich to me.
Okay.
You know what? I've had this conversation with Sarah Thompson many times that I think dairy has gotten a bad rap, especially in this day and age where everything is low cal, low fat, or fat free. You know, there's all this emphasis on avoiding fats. Okay. So this study from the European Society of Cardiology is really interesting. New research challenges advice to limit high-fat dairy foods, okay? So they looked at 80 countries, essentially. They found that diets high in fruit, vegetables, whole-fat dairy, nuts, legumes, and fish were linked to a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease and early death. And even if you included unprocessed red meats or whole grains, still, no increase in early death or in cardiovascular disease. So what's going on here? This is really the takeaway, okay? That research suggests that increasing consumption of the protective foods, the vegetables, the fruits, the nuts, the legumes, the fish, including whole-fat dairy, is more beneficial than just focusing solely on reducing fat intake. So you can balance it out by eating more fruits and vegetables, and then that big healthy serving of cheese, just melted.
Glass of whole milk.
There you go.
I remember interviewing this guy from Forest Junction years ago. He was 105. He said the key to his life was drinking whole milk. He said he wouldn't feed skim milk to his cats.
That's why.
Right. Thanks, Brad. Well, under the sea, not the danger.